Hi, and welcome to this, I guess, testimonial video from Margryette Boyd. Margryette is a graduate and alumni of the Manifest Your Dream Life course, and so everything else I think that I've put out there. And you are just awesome. And the reason I wanted to have you on this testimonial video is because a lot of my clients are like woo-woo, kind of like me. And when you came in, you weren't necessarily woo. You're very faithful. You belong to a Christian-based church. And I just really find it so interesting because every time we would talk, I would say this law of attraction concept, and you would come up with the equivalent biblical reference to it, which I thought was so awesome. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you, because I want people to understand that law of attraction isn't necessarily a metaphysical thing. It's a non-denominational thing that people can incorporate in their life and feel comfortable with that, and integrating it into their faith beliefs. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you. But I also wanted to talk to you because I feel like you did so well with all the material too. So before we kind of go down that road, and I know you, which is why I'm like, I love Margryette. But nobody else knows you. So Margryette, tell people who you are and what your thing is, okay?
Tell them who I am and what? What was
And
the
what you
second part?
do. Like what do you do for a living?
Okay. So my name is Margryette Boyd. I currently reside in Auburn, Alabama. I'm a native of Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a mom to a beautiful 1-year old. Well, he's almost 2. He'll be 2 May 5th, River. And I teach secondary English, 9th and 11th grade for a small rural school. The demographics is high poverty levels, and it's about 90% Black. And so we have about a relatively large number of Hispanics and then few Caucasians. So I'm a graduate student. I'm currently aspiring to get my doctorate. And then also, I just love life and I love learning. So that's who I am in a nutshell. And of course, like she said, which is a big component to my life, I am a believer. I belong to a prophetic ministry, which falls under the Christian principles and so forth. So I don't like to call myself a Christian, but I do like to call myself a believer. But if it had to be boxed in, you would say that I was a Christian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's start at the very, like in Sound of Music. Let's start at the very beginning.
Yes.
So, so how did you discover my program? How did you discover me? Like, just because I like to know, how did people find me? Because you were not on my friends list before. We don't live in the same state, you know. So
Right. I did know you from Adam. Like, I didn't know the person that was presenting either. Well, I kind of knew of her, but I didn't know her personally. My pastor would always speak of this lady named Latanya Moore. She's great. And he would talk about her over the pulpit several times. So I friended her on Facebook, and she decided that she was going to do a virtual conference. At first, I thought the conference was something that you had to go and physically sit. And then I was like, and I kept paying attention, and I was like, I don't know if I have the means to travel. Right now I really need this to be free. And then I started paying attention, and it was free, and it was a virtual conference. And I was like, virtual conference over Facebook? I was like, how is this going to work? And I actually have forgot about it, but I was sitting like in the bed at home, and I was like, something was like, well, I'm not going to say something, but the spirit was like, log on to Facebook, and so I logged on, and that's when I see the conference is taking place. And, I chose to participate in the conference. And of course, she had the different segments. And it's not like I decided, well, I'm going to log on for this one, but cut off for that one, because I didn't have anything to do. And each person was just so interesting. Your segment was law of attraction. And I was like, I need that. I need to understand that, because I had bought the books on, what was this? The Secret. And it was talking about that law of attraction, and I was doing some of those things, but it was like plummeting. Like I wasn't really getting any like results. And I was like, this is stupid, you know, and you get these testimonials that people are like, oh, and I'm doing this and I'm attracting that. And I was like, I haven't attracted a damn thing. Excuse my French, sorry.
Oh, you know I dropped the F-bombs. You do what you got to do.
So, you know, but, you know, and so at that moment, you know, and I'm like a big prayer, you know, and I was saying like, God, I need answers. I need information. You know, because there's a scripture, we perish for lack of knowledge. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm just like not thriving and I'm not, you know, I'm kind of perishing. And so at that particular moment, I log on, the conference is going on, and you're doing law of attraction. And I think maybe like one of your taglines it was something else that also caught my attention as well. I can't remember what it was, but most definitely the law of attraction. And so I chose to participate, and especially because I had a real problem with, you know, having a mindset of positivity and just different things that I knew that you kind of use the law of attraction as a tool, you know, for those weaknesses that you have. And so that's how I came to know you. And after you presented, friend requested and joined your group and, you know, just basically, you know, followed your lead.
And what, you know, you, like you said, you kind of friended me on Facebook, joined the group, kind of like kicked the tires, so to speak. But what made you choose my program? Like you said, you read The Secret, you've seen other people doing their things, and you're like, it's a bunch of hoo-ha, whatever. And but what made you, like, what in particular were you like, I'm just going to jump in this Manifest Your Dream Life pool with her? What kind of made you do that?
I think that the biggest thing is that, you know, I'm very big on service, and with me being from Las Vegas, I understand that I'm not going to say that, well, I will say it. I can kind of sift through the bull crap and I can see like the motivation and the aim. Like, is this really about what you're passionate about, or is this about check off the box? Like, I just need to make money. And so in my gut, I was like, okay, like to me, The Secret, buy the video, get the book. Like that's an aim to make money. And it didn't work. And so but in you know, paralleling it to you, it was like, I'm passionate about this. I'm going to debunk all the bull crap because people out here spinning their wheels, frustrated because they think that it's supposed to look like this, but this is really how it looks. And I'm an expert, and I love people that are highly qualified. They're experts, but I also love people that are humane. Like, well, I want to say humane. Like, you know, you're passionate, you have a love for people, your energy, you know, like all of that. So that's why I chose, you know, you over other things. And then of course, also following my gut, I felt like this is something that I need, you know, with you bringing up my Christian perspective. You know, I won't say that I was the most comfortable, but I do believe that, like they say, you know, sometimes you have to go there to know there. So I can't talk about Africa if I've never really been to Africa. And so that's why I was like, the best thing I could do is just choose to participate, and I can decide whether I like it or not. But what I really liked too was that it's not like you were just out there just like wanting to just take anybody. You know, there was still requirements and a standard of, you need to do the consult call. I need to see if we mesh, and then I'll decide whether or not, you know, I can serve you. And if this can't be a reciprocal relationship, even though you're buying my program or products, then I will choose to recommend you elsewhere or not to do, you know, business with you and so forth. And I think that says a lot about people and their businesses and their passions and their programs. So you're not just out there to just take anything and everybody and take people's money. So
Yeah. And just as a side note, soon you will be able to talk about one place because you manifested a trip, didn't you?
yes, I did. A lot of the things that I've kind of like manifested, and not just say like it needed to be tangible. Some things were spiritual,
Right.
like really like embracing that, you know, I'm a It's so crazy because you always said I'm a like you're a human, like this is a spiritual experience, and we kind of
Oh,
like,
we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
right. And so oftentimes, because of like the laws of like, and people's self-inflicted laws too that they impose on you, I kind of was more living it out of being a human experience instead of a spiritual experience. So spiritually, I was able to kind of really work on the faith and the doubt and the fear,
Mm-hmm.
and those were things that I didn't want to have. And so uh I don't have them. Like, somebody, for example, I have a son, and we had to, in class this past Sunday, we had to turn over our phones, and I had so much peace about it, and they were like, why? And I was like, because at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. I'm not gonna live out of fear or doubt. I'm just gonna know that what will be, and God has this. So yeah, I have a son, but I just have faith that he's going to be okay because I pray over him, and I believe that God has my back. And those are some of the messages that, by participating in your program, you would always communicate. Like, the universe has your back, God has your back. And so, but I also manifested a trip. I've had my passport it'll expire in 2020, so close to 7 years. And I had not put one stamp. I didn't count like the Bahamas and different places like that, but I was like, I really want an expense-free international trip. So I am going to Seoul, Korea, May 27th through June 6th, all expense paid through Auburn University. And one of my coworkers mentioned it to me. Yeah. And I also manifested a marquee for my school. I was
Like literally a
asked.
marquee, not like a poster, like what you see in front of a movie theater.
Yes. And so that's going to communicate the events that we have at the school. And, I go to, I work at a school that kind of has like a very negative culture and a lot of what we can't do. And if you say like, oh, I would like to do this, well, don't know how you're going to do that because we don't have that kind of money. It's never from a point of, let's see how we can make this happen. And so it was very like, it could have been very problematic and hard for me, but it wasn't, because of the fact that I went through the coaching. And so that coaching was preparing me for like, my now. And it wasn't, it's the now of teaching, but it was things that I would encounter as I'm going throughout this year. And so, but yes, we wrote a grant, and bam, like we've raised money as well, like my students did, but that was only touching a tip of the iceberg. The students raised $300, and I was like, what am I going to do? And, so combined with your teachings, and then of course, my Christian background, I just knocked it out the park. So yes. Okay.
Yeah, hi person in the background. As you can tell, Margryette is truly a school teacher. She's in her classroom right now, recording it from her classroom. So I just kind of wanted to mention that as a side note. So thinking back about when we were first talking, because like you said earlier, I do make sure that I have a consult call with everybody before they join the course, because somebody could really want to join it. It sounds really great, but they get on the phone with me and they're like, I don't know if you can be my coach, or I'm not quite sure you're ready to be where we need you to be to take this. You might better be more benefited by one-on-one coaching, or maybe one of the self-practice things that I have. But it really comes down to, that call. And so on that call, we'll think back to the call, and what would I guess an obstacle be that you could remember that you were thinking to yourself, this might be an obstacle to me joining this course. I really want to join it, but this might be my obstacle. Can you think about what that was at your time of enrolling, and then how you overcame that obstacle?
Okay. So, I think you're kind of referencing like, I think the hardest part was the fact that I knew that I was a Christian. And so what we've been taught, is that these are like, you just law of attraction, you don't participate in it, and all of this crazy like foolishness. And that was my biggest, like, I knew that was going to be one of my biggest problems, and but how I overcame that was, I just think that, like, you have to follow your gut, and you have to understand that you're where you're supposed to be when you need to be there. And that I just don't believe that things happen for a reason. And so I was like, all I can do is try and understand. Now if you tell me to go hang a cat and spin around 7 times, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that.
We don't do that here.
Right, and that is a drastic example, but I am an English teacher, so I am going to be very descriptive. But I think that was, one of the major things. And but because I am so strong in my faith, like, I think that you need to be able to argue for something as well as argue against it. And so when I was dealing with those things or those issues, I was understanding and is also seeking, my spiritual leadership, like talking to him as well about it. And, one of the things that he stated to me, and I mean, he's very, 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 very smart, very intellectual, that, everything that's coming dressed as good isn't good. And everything that's coming dressed as bad isn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at it from that aspect, like, anybody can pervert their gift, and so at the end of the day, I just had to decide that it all just boils down to, is that person being guided by the Holy Ghost or the Spirit, and to me, in my opinion, you are. So it really wasn't an issue. You don't overstep your boundaries. You communicate, this is what I hear, and this is what I understand, and this is who I understand you to be. So this is the advice that I'm going to render. And sometimes we can't even get that with people that we deal with on a daily basis, So I think that was pretty much it. So I just decided that I had to be honest with self, and to thy own self be true, and to understand that, as a Christian, what I'm going to say believer, that at the end of the day, it still boils down to our heart as well, and that God can see our heart. So if you're just sitting here like, oh, I'm going to watch every day, but I'm not going to participate, like, that's where your heart is, and he can see your heart. So you're still participating because it's in your heart. And I just felt like, well, it's there for a reason. So, and I don't think that, I'm going to hell. So it is what it is.
I don't think so. You were very, very intelligent and articulate about your belief system. Like, when we would talk, especially with the other group members in your cycle, I thought it was really awesome how because everybody came from a different background, both faith-based and ethnically, and just, we had such a great diverse group in there. And I just loved how everybody interacted, and you brought such a really, I hate to say meaty, but I don't know what other word to, it was like, you brought the hot dish to the party. Showed up, with some, like, we had guacamole and stuff like that. And I was like, oh man, this is great, because it's such a rarity to have somebody that is that faith-based in my group. And I just thought it just added so much. So I just appreciate you being there and joining. And you kind of you were touching a little bit on there in spiritual investment in self. Like, when you said, God sees what's in your heart. And if you don't follow what's in your heart, you're not investing in yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So thinking back to coming in, a lot of times, sometimes people see the tuition fee as an obstacle. Was that something you dealt with in coming in for you? Was that an obstacle? And maybe how did you overcome that, if it was?
At first, it was an obstacle, and I think that's what I would add. It was more so like, it was spiritual and it was money. Like, I knew that I would have the gusto to want to participate and be engaged and stuff like that. So, but the money was a very big issue. I'm an educator. I primarily do about 85% of my son's care, on my own, and so that comes with financial constraints and everything else. But from the virtual conference, it just was like set the intention, and just, it is what it is. Leave the how up to God. And, that's not for me to figure out. And, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? And when I tell you, like, I was just like receiving like money in all forms, like expected and unexpectedly. Like expectedly is my paycheck, but unexpectedly is an increase on my credit card, and so that's what I wanted to do. And then I didn't want to just like I didn't want just the individual one-on-one coaching, and the individual combined with the group was, as well as the way that it was designed, it was the most expensive package. Like I'm like a go hard or go home person. So,
I know.
if you want to go, the more figure out, hey, no judgment, but I'm going all in. And I was like, no, like, I don't even want to just compromise in how I choose to participate. I want it the way that I want it. And that happened. And I remember like one of my first small manifestations was like, I can't remember like what happened, but I didn't have money, and I ate some radishes and tomatoes and red grapes and put on some like root chakra oil, and money came like voila. But I also
in the course, because
yeah.
That's what Margryette's referencing is your root chakra is your money chakra. So, and the red panties.
Yeah, and the red panties. And so, and it was so funny. And I remember because I needed to get approved for a loan, right, because I was transitioning. I had lost my job. Mm-hmm. And I was transitioning, and I needed to prepare for the new job, which I also manifested after like I had people that were trying to have me blackballed from receiving a teaching position. So I definitely beyond benefit after benefit of being attached to the program. But yes, I needed that approval for that loan, and I got it with like flying colors. And it was so crazy because the person that I expected to be there, like if the person was there that I wanted, I don't think that I could have been as solid as to say that I had like manifested it, because this was a guy that I didn't know from Adam. And, I was looking for someone that had kind of like dealt with my church, and she worked there, and she was out, and she would be out for 3 days. And I was like, the affirmation was the affirmation. I'm just going to go for it and do my work and leave the how up to God. And it was like approved. And, it wasn't for like this small amount. He was like, you can either get like 2,000, or you could get like 1,500 or 1,000, but you're approved up to 2,500. And I chose 1,000 because that's what I needed.
Yeah. So let me get this straight, just so we're clear with everybody watching. When you found me and you kind of were coming into the program, you had your contract at the one school was not renewed. Right. There were some challenges with some of the people, and so you were kind of like iffy about if I'm going to get a job or not.
Yes.
And then you saw me on LaTanya's thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then we talked, and you still had not gotten a new job yet.
No, I still hadn't got a new job.
And so you even at that point, you just said, if I'm going to go all in with this manifesting thing and all this stuff, after you watched my workshop, which anybody watching this has access to work. I do them all the time. You watch the workshop and you were like, okay, if this is, I have faith in God, and the fact is God has my back. The how is up to God. I want to take this program, and I want to take it because I want to increase my faith. I want to step into my own power. I want to increase the concept of free will in myself, to lean into love and away from fear, and how the money is going to work itself out. And then it did, because through this banker that you had no clue who they were, and poof, there it was. And then poof, you joined. Like, you had already kind of said, yes, I'm going to pay for this. You paid your first, because we did, I think, installment payments, because I do offer the payment plans. And you were like, I'm going to pay this one payment, and I'm not going to talk about the how, because the universe has the how. And the fact is that you ended up with everything. And you didn't just buy the group, or the group with a couple of the one-on-ones. You bought the VIP. I go bigger, go home. So we're talking like what Margryette did was all, like when she says all in, it's like 200% all in with Margryette.
Yeah, and because as a person, like I'm either kind of like it is or it isn't, you know.
Right.
Very, very hard for me to like be in the gray, but even in that, I've learned, that some things are gray. And so, and when you just say that you want to be better and, you want to work on your strengths and weaknesses, like it was that total full like experience professionally, spiritually, financially, relationally, like I, didn't. I had a complicated situation with my child's father, and just my mindset in those different things, and receiving offers to date and stuff, and kind of being able to process, because I did want to know kind of like how to discern as well, like that discernment to be like really, really strong. Like it's great, but like really strong, and having those practical tools that I could implement daily. Like when you are in the church, it's they speak of the knowledge, but they don't speak of the how. And that's the problem. People get frustrated in the how. They're not frustrated in why they have to do it. It's like, I got the knowledge and I don't know how to do it, and nobody's showing me how. And so that was the bridging that I needed,
Yeah.
as a believer and as a person.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I do what I do, because I've noticed everywhere you go, they talk a whole lot about how great it is, but they don't tell you how to do it. And so, like, after doing it for 40 years or whatever and manifesting all the things that I've manifested for myself, and like kind of sitting down for 2 years and figuring out what does that all mean and how does it work, and then writing the book and then the course. Yeah, the how is my purpose is to share the how with everybody. So do you think learning the how is the biggest benefit from the course, or do you have another big benefit, or are there a couple of benefits from taking it that you find?
I think it was the let it go, letting it go, because that, and that's something that you identified in the consult. You gave me 3 different things. And, but because if I talk about all 3 of them, I would have to like be here for like hours, and we don't have time for that. But, the letting it go was so big, because it's connected to so much more, like your ask, believe, receive, and so forth. And so with that, um, I wanted to be my own, like, I'll speak from the aspect of being a believer. I want to say, oh yeah, I trust you, God. And yeah, but at the end of the day, I really didn't want to take my hands off of stuff. And I would say like, oh yeah, I believe, I'll leave it at the altar and I'm done. But I was picking it back up. And the letting it go helped me to realize that, I wanted to be my own God to myself. And then when I mess it up, say, oh, well, God, here I come, help me. And so what I took away from like those segments is that, when you were teaching and, talking about those things, was that, I had to let it go. And that was connected to so many things, like mentally and just as a person. So like leaving the how up to, God, and however he chooses to deliver it to me. Like if he wanted to deliver it to me with a cat, as long as it was in truth and love, then I did kind of need to receive it. Or if the rock cried out, like I would need to receive that. And so and to understand that the only responsibility I had was in my actions, to monitor my thought process, my actions, and participating in the choices that were support the intentions that I wanted to receive, because that's what it all boiled down to.
Yeah.
And so when you look at everything, like, and then even how I talk about like the spiritual aspects, like the doubt, the fear, it allowed me to have the ability to also like stop self-sabotaging and, begin to really speak my affirmatives in my life, like they say, spiritually declare and decree,
Right.
And it helped me attract what I needed.
So, I mean, just, and this is off the cuff. So would you say it helped increase your faith, like strengthen your faith?
Yeah, if you know what, now that I think about it, if you really had to like probably boil it all down, that's what I needed. That's what it was more so about. It wasn't totally about
And I apologize for the train in the background. We live near the train tracks and it's going by.
Yeah, but
Yeah, so you were
it
saying
wasn't.
about empowering your faith.
Yeah, it wasn't about receiving things. I knew that I needed my faith strengthened,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed it to be organic. I didn't need it to be superficial, and I did need it to be vain. And sometimes when you have been a believer so long, you can get acclimated in that. And I could see the link between like the law of attraction and my spiritual base helping to, like, instead of them being like this, make them like this, which makes me an even more powerful believer and person of faith. And that's what it really boiled down to, because a lot of my experiences were causing me to doubt. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just doubt my entire existence, doubt, even whether God was real. I've read books like The Shack and, different things, and they worked for that short stint. But this has been totally different, like in understanding that, other people's opinions of me, they aren't my business.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm here to be that spiritual being that's living a human experience. And if that's what you kind of want to move into, then most definitely you would need to, or purpose and clarity of your purpose, then that's why you would participate in your coaching.
Yeah. Oh, yay. I'm so glad you got so much out of it, because that just is amazing to me. I love that. So if you were talking to somebody, say, because I always say to prospective clients, if you want to speak to one of my current clients or clients who have gone through the course and I'm still in touch with, because like y'all kind of rolled right into that. I was, everybody was like, what's next? So I created the kind of the VIP alumni group and y'all kind of rolled into that. And so I always
Mhm.
say to people who are thinking about working with me, I'm sure any of our alumni would love to chat with you. You can talk behind my back. I always say that. You'll see that in every video I say, and it's true. You guys do talk behind my back, but not in a bad way. At
Yeah.
least I hope not. You guys talk to each other, like you and Christy have kind of become buddies, and you guys don't even live in the same state. You didn't know each other before the group, and you guys are so funny because y'all are like mailing stuff back and forth. I mean, so what, like the group itself as a cohesive unit of people who didn't know each other before, like how do you feel that that has changed for you? I mean, was that a good experience in creating those friendships?
Yeah, my alumni experience, it worked. You said in reference to my alumni experience, right?
Right, in the experience during the course when you had that group of people to kind of, so that you were not alone in your journey there. You weren't just you and me. You were in a group and had the one-on-ones with me. So the group being there to kind of support you in your journey, and then I guess rolling into your alumni experience.
Yeah, my alumni experience worked very well. Like, I think I rolled out of the program before my birthday
Mhm.
and before Christmas, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I felt kind of, because I did kind of lose my mom, well, my grandmother that raised me. And so there were just kind of like things that you kind of wonder, like, God, you're thinking about me. And so throughout my experience, I had a lot of support, and even on the days where I'd have to miss or I was feeling some type of way, everybody would be like, Margryette, we saved space for you. This is what we did. We're sending you love. And I also had a professor to pass during the process of the experience, and just for everybody to give that space, because we found out actually live during a call, and
Yeah.
everybody kind of just like really supported me and made space for that. And we're really concerned about, me understanding and, you know, um, allowing me to have that space for my humanity, but also to kind of think more from a spiritual experience aspect, and just knowing that, it still was okay and everything was still going to be okay. And so that was so important for me. And then afterwards, it was kind of like when we had family traditions, like my mom was the only one that would acknowledge my graduations and
Mm.
um, the holidays and my birthday. And so, and to kind of bring Christy into it. So, I think for graduation, everybody sent a message and was like, Margryette, we're there for you. We may not be there physically, but we send spirit and love. And that, really, really helped me a lot. And then afterwards, I just remember I think did I send Christy her unicorn stuff?
Yeah, you said so. I
While we
think
were,
you had done her a unicorn care package thing.
yeah, because we were on this big unicorn kick, you guys. It was crazy. Couldn't stop seeing unicorns everywhere.
So
And I was like,
funny.
oh my God. So when I sent her like a couple of, unicorn items. And so in between Christmas and my birthday, Christy says, oh, I'm sending you something. And this goes into manifesting too. And I said, you know what? I really want a printer that scans. That would help me a great deal. But I was like, I don't really see a space to fit it in my budget, kind of like not practicing, the right things that I've been taught. But then again, bouncing right back into, no, Margryette, you said it, you want it. Don't worry about the how.
Yeah,
So
just
I
give
get this
yourself
message.
permission to be like, wouldn't it be nice if I had a printer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I get this message and I get, Christy, she's not telling you what it is, but she says, I sent you something. And it was kind of lost a little bit. And it was like, and so the paper came first and not the printer. And it was so funny. And I said, oh, I said, she sent me paper. I was like, well, this must be for
Okay.
my, right. Yeah. Okay. This must be for my copies, because we have to buy our own paper. And so I was like, yep, I'm getting low on paper. So this is great. And I was grateful. Well, 2 days later, I get the other portion of the paper and I'm like screaming at the top of my dang lungs because it's a printer that scans, faxes, does photos. And then, I'm a happy planner girl, so I can even print my own stickers. And so I was like, oh my freaking gosh. And so she's like, yeah, I wanted to send you something. And I was just like, just that, and she said, and I said, well, what made you send me that? And she's like, Spirit just said you needed it. And it was
Because
so
you never
crazy because
said to her, you never said, hey, Christy, I need a printer.
no, and I never
Hey, I
acknowledged.
need a printer.
Yeah, like it was never acknowledged in any of our group things or
Right.
meetings or anything. It was just something that I said to myself. And so like it was such a blessing. And just to know that I have people that are out there that are supporting me and they, may not be like within hand's reach of me, but spiritually it feels like they are. And, also sending those messages and tools. Hey, I thought about you. I thought you might need this. Just want to let you know that I'm thinking about you. And so that's, it's great.
So if somebody, as I was saying earlier, before we kind of, I actually jettisoned us off in this side topic because I just thought that was such a great story. If there was somebody who was kind of on the fence, kind of like how you were like, I was all, like, you knew you had to, but you weren't sure how, and you were on the fence. And if there was somebody on the fence that called you to say, I want to talk to somebody who has been through the course and work with Michelle, and I'm on the fence. I'm not sure if, I should spend the money on it. I'm not sure if I should take it. It sounds good, but I'm on the fence. What would you tell the person on the fence about it? About, like, would you tell them to go ahead and take it? Would you tell them how to deal with it? What would you tell them?
I think it goes back to what I kind of mentioned earlier. Like, I'm definitely going to tell you to take it because I just believe that experience is the biggest teacher, and so, and also to know that like I'm going to kind of relate it to my teaching. Like, it's a reciprocal model of teaching. It's, I do, you do, we do.
Mm.
And if you need that, like, which, like, teaching wise, dynamically, like, in which I am a delta, so this is our symbol, but the triangle is one of the strongest structures. Like, it is the strongest, and it's because it has that triangulation. And I can go into math and break all those degrees and stuff down, but I'm not going to do that. But I would say that they need to participate because of that model. It's individual, it's you doing what you need to do and you examining and reflecting. And it's also a we, so that that you're not out there. Even if you don't participate in the group portion, there's still the group that you can kind of reflect your feelings back and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. And so you get to deal with people that have been in those moments, and they can say, well, when this happened, this is what I did. So those moments of feedback, from person to person, and each person each has some type of light. And at the end of the day, pray. I need the tools. I need the feedback, truth and the light. And that you're going to be receptive of a message based off of truth and love. And that's what I judge everything off of. I just did a speech today with my children, and I said, what's the difference between, and this is great, thank you, Spirit. What's the difference between an educator and a teacher? And I asked my student, and she said, teachers are the county roads. They're there just to get paid and for a short stint of time. And then she said, the educators, though, they are the highways and byways to life. And I feel like when you participate in this type of coaching, that's what it is. Not to say that my pastor is like a county road, because he's not, but he's a part of the road that can only do so much. And so in order to extend myself into, being able to experience the highway and byway of life, I knew, or I would tell somebody to participate in that coaching.
Yeah. Thank you. So I guess we're kind of at our little end here. So I always ask people, is there anything, because we kind of talked about, I have my list of questions that we kind of go through and chat about. But is there anything you want to share from your point of view with those watching? Anything that I missed that you want to say?
I think the biggest thing that I would want someone to know, or what I would want to communicate, is that you have to, when you're dealing with what you want and what you want to attract, that it's about truth, it's about integrity, and it's about humanity. And those all of the different, whether it's Bible or law of attraction, it still boils down to systems, laws, and principles, and some facets of rules. And so at the end of the day, that's what you want to consider when trying to participate in something like this. You want to participate in a program or work with a person that's of high integrity, that's going to speak in truth and love, and not out of fear, I can't tell you the truth because it might piss you off and send you down the road to go examine XYZ. No, to know that I'm doing this in love. And not every moment was, was I totally ready for that truth? I may not have, been ready sometimes, but I was ready spiritually. And my spirit was saying, this is what you need to hear. And because of that, and you not shying away from it, and actually being cognizant of my nonverbal cues too. Like, Margryette, you got this look. What's going on? I get this kind of aura. Some people don't even pay attention close enough like that. And so, and
sometimes you didn't like me calling on you calling you on that stuff too. You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And so, I think that's the only thing that I would share. When they think about, I think it says, think, is it true, honest, and whatever that little mnemonic that they made for that, is it helpful, and just let experience be its greatest teacher. The worst thing you can do is spit it out. Like my pastor always says, sometimes you got to learn how to put your big girl panties on and chew the meat and spit out the bones. So chew the meat and spit out the bones.
Your big girl red panties.
Yes, your big girl red panties.
Support the root chakra.
Yes. So I think that's it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I honestly believe that, you're in safe hands.
Oh, thank you. And I will tell you this, it was and continues to be an honor for me to work with you as we go through your journey together. And even when you decide it's time for you to journey on, and we still we move to more friend role or whatever. But right now, I am so honored that you and I have been brought together by God to work together, and and I just love watching you unfold. Margryette posts some really great things on her Facebook page, and I see it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So, and I love watching you manifest stuff because that just brings me joy too. So,
yes.
Anyway, I want to say thank you for joining me today. I am so, again, honored and grateful to work with you, and honored and grateful that you would speak to me today about this, so share the course with others. And as I said before, I'm sure Margryette would not mind if somebody wants to talk and ask questions, but behind my back and be on full disclosure, honesty. Margryette will tell you the truth.
Yes. That's
No,
like I have to be like.
Transparency is her middle name. So if you want to, you can message her. She's in our big group. Other than that, I so appreciate your time today, Margryette, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Okay. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.